In a world overrun by monsters, you're the last one standing, and your children's lives rest in your hands. The creatures are closing in. What will you do? Before sunset on this particular day, Thomas arrives late after spending the entire day outside. Paul eagerly awaits him outside, knowing that being outside is not risk-free, but he chooses to wait. Meanwhile, Joseph begins to securely close each door, and Paul watches as Thomas rushes home. They enter without wasting any time, locking all the doors. As part of their daily routine, Paul remembers to ask both of them if they are safe. After getting confirmation, he sits down at the dinner table with Joseph and Thomas and prays before beginning to prepare the meal. Paul cautioned Thomas that it was extremely risky to be late again. A fight breaks out at the dinner table after Thomas, who walks to the nearby town every day to assist Mr. and Mrs. Rose, agrees to return before sunset the next time. Joseph, however, is not pleased with Thomas's negligence and does not know what keeps Thomas there all day. Later that evening, Paul makes sure that bolts are fastened to the doors since he detests their careless and useless actions and wants to stop them. After reading the book and playing chess with Joseph, Tom looks away as Paul notices their dog frantically scratching the ground with its paws, which is an indication that monsters are about to swiftly emerge from the earth. Tom examines the basement door after picking up the light, but monsters have been hammering at it with all of their strength, and it looks like they could be inside any moment. After a while, Joseph shares his observations that there were multiple monsters on the door. At first, they checked by banging, but then they began hitting the door in frustration because it was severely scratched on the outside and could no longer hold the monster out if they attacked again. Paul starts to cut the wood to create a new wooden patch after removing the damaged one. When Paul interrupts, Joseph reveals that he is working on items that will allow them live fearlessly in the presence of monsters around them. Joseph has sketched a wooden box in his notebook, but he does not elaborate on his idea. He aspires to lead an unrestrained and reckless life. Paul, however, has created a vehicle, examines it, and sits down with Joseph to read his journal. According to Joseph, when humans contaminated the world, monsters appeared. Now, they aim to rid the planet of a virus called human, and they will not stop until they have eradicated it. Paul agrees with this presumption, but he has seen that the water is getting clearer every day, which is encouraging, and he thinks that eventually, people from all over the world will come to their aid. Paul inspects the car. When he first tries to start the car, it starts, and he takes his time, taking Joseph with him. When they get home, Paul wants them to go to the river together while he makes dinner because Joseph is the driver but finds it difficult to control the brakes and gas. Paul sends Tom despite his refusal to comply. In the interim, Tom furiously accuses Joseph of keeping him from going to Mrs. Rose's house because he was unable to stop himself and got out of the car at a corner, instructing Joseph to meet him there before sunset. Although Joseph disapproves of his careless behavior, he was powerless to stop him. When Tom arrives, he apologizes for being late but promises to complete the task from yesterday. Mrs. Rose waters the plant. Mr. Rose and Mrs. Rose thank him for his assistance, and as they leave, their daughter Charlotte greets Tom with a sweet smile, saying that she has already completed the assignment and that it is good to see him again. Charlotte brings her dad outdoors so they can get some assistance. While Joseph stops the car near the wreckage of a shattered ship and ties himself up with the ropes to return swiftly in case of any unforeseen danger, Tom pursues her while Paul, sitting next to a waterfall, spots a monster's hand in a hole. He down the stairs, investigates the various spaces, and selects a hefty object to set aside. Little did he know that a large number of little flies and other creatures were hidden behind, and they suddenly attacked him. Tom loses his mind over the attack. On the other hand, Joseph was unable to see Charlotte's father anywhere. She laughed while pulling a practical joke, and she wanted them to go outside for a while. They discuss the end of the world, and Charlotte suggests a game in which they must each explain what the end of the world will be in 10 seconds. Tom's story had smoke that spread throughout the world, and he was unable to think past it before the time ran out and he lost the game in that delicate moment when they smiled and felt so close, but the sun was setting. Charlotte goes first, and in her story, a bug infects the entire world. After humans die and become ill, mice take over, and everything ends. Despite his desire to stay, Tom had to go. Charlotte pauses for 10 seconds and gives him an embrace. They both feel at ease in one another's arms. After 10 seconds, Tom rushes to Joseph, who is on the other side. Joseph manages to escape the ship while avoiding flies and beasts, but he cannot locate Tom. Paul concerns that both guys are still out even though he has already returned home. Tom tumbles into a pit while running as quickly as he can. Joseph waits for him at the same location, but he takes the car back home since he believes Tom would have arrived home if he had not been there. However, Paul wants Joseph to stay home and get a few essential items so he may go on a search. In contrast, Tom regains consciousness in the pit, but he needs assistance to escape because it is too deep and dark. He attempts to build a fire. After multiple efforts, he lights the fire, but a strange sound comes out and the light goes out again. He then switches the fire back on and notices a creature approaching and howling. When Paul hears the noise, he kills the monster, descends the pit, and gives Tom a hug for discovering him alive. They decide to remain there until the next morning, with Joseph staying up all night to ensure the house is safe and locked. Joseph was sleeping in his chair in the middle of the night when the wooden piece of the roof suddenly fell aside. A monster then entered the room with its hand inside the window and attempted to touch him, unfolding multiple layers of its hand but failing to reach him. As soon as the monster entered the room and stood beneath the open portion of the roof, a box that was attached to a rope fell on it, encasing it. Even if they were not vigilant, Joseph's plan was ideal for capturing the beast. Paul, on the other hand, starts the fire, and several tiny flying insects attack them. He attempts to block the slit with the fire cord in his hand, but he is determined to save Tom, so he asks him to keep away. However, the insects are viciously assaulting his body, and when the sun rises, nobody comes back. Joseph boards the vehicle and simultaneously sets off to find Thomas and his father. While their dog leads the way, Tom manages to drag himself out of the pit. Both brothers help his father, who is seriously hurt and unconscious, get into the car and drive him home. Despite Joseph's efforts to stop him, Tom opens the moving box in the room and is shocked to discover a deadly monster imprisoned there. They bandage their father's wounds and decide to kill the monster to use as food, but as soon as they do, it escapes and attacks again, so they carefully surround and kill it. There are drawings of each monster in the room while Joseph slices the monster to prepare. There is a fair chance that someone in Charlottetown may be able to provide his father with medication, so Thomas proposes taking him there. In addition to refusing to give him medication, they close their doors on Tom as soon as Mrs. Rose notices him with other people. When Charlotte asks her parents to aid them, they refuse, only letting Tom stay and asking everyone else to go after that. Because they are unable to even give their dying father medicine, Joseph despises them and makes Thomas reconsider the people he was spending his time with. This infuriates Thomas, who then tries to strangle Joseph. Following Joseph's return of his father to his house, Thomas remains there while Charlotte tries to reassure him by bringing him to her chamber. Her father witnesses their kiss and orders Charlotte to keep away from Thomas. However, Joseph feels that there has been a monster attack when he is traveling home. As he carries his father inside the house by himself, he observes both small and large footprints on the dusty floor. At the same time, Tom secretly looks for Charlotte's kitchen to obtain any medication that could help him save his father's life. Charlotte then comes in, gives him the necessary medication, and tells him to come back soon. When her father overhears their talk, he points his gun at Thomas as he flees the town before sunset, but he arrests him on suspicion of being sly. However, the house is no longer safe because the monsters have excavated a large hole in it and can strike at any time. He stumbles and falls in the middle of the room. In contrast, Charlotte's father gives Thomas to a select group of individuals who will determine his fate. They bind his hands and feet and aim a gun at him in an attempt to murder him. Simultaneously, a monster rises from the earth and devours the shooter. Numerous monsters then attack the entire town, running for Charlotte's parents' chamber and dragging them both outdoors before ruthlessly killing them both as Charlotte exits her room. She follows the bloodstains and screams after hearing the ruckus to find her parents' dead bodies and monsters eating them. Though everyone is afraid for their own life, Thomas begs many men to untie his hands because the monster may kill him at any time. Eventually, he opens the knot and tosses the wooden bed aside, but just as he is ready to flee, a monster materializes in front of him. Charlotte shoots it in the body at the same moment and leaves the room, bringing him with her. She breaks the news of her parents passing to Tom, who rushes to their room. The entire home is burning. As they swiftly depart, Joseph fills the gap in the room and turns to face his father. He kisses his forehead and then hears a creaking sound coming from another area of the house. Shortly after following the voice, he spots a monster attempting to enter through the door. A human hand enters to turn the knob, and Joseph is relieved to know that his brother is attempting to enter the house. He enters right away, and his skin is covered with blood. Since they will be attacked at any moment, Joseph wants them to follow his plan. After building a PY of wooden objects, he places cigarettes and matchsticks on it. Meanwhile, in the adjacent room, a new hole in the floor frightens Thomas, who leaps to his feet to hide from the approaching monsters. After Charlotte carefully points the gun, a monster attacks Thomas in the room. As Charlotte shoots the monster, more monsters follow and enter the house through the open path. They move the refrigerator to a different room, and all of a sudden they see their father approaching them to protect his children. After moving the children to another room, he locks it down and takes the rifle from Charlotte, hitting as many demons as he can. Joseph begs their father to open the door, but he is already dying and their father is aware that there are a lot of creatures. He recalls how he reared his kids as his own when he first brought them home, and how the house burned down exactly as Joseph had intended. In an attempt to escape the anticipated devastation, Joseph, Thomas, and Charlotte enter the refrigerator. When the refrigerator collapses, they attempt to reach their father, but it is unlikely that he would have survived. With monsters pursuing them, they immediately enter the car, Charlotte pointing her gun at them to kill the monsters in the shape of a large fireball. After a few gunshots, they are able to eliminate the monsters and bring the car to a stop. The following morning, they arrived at Charlotte's house, where she recites the last words of her parents' memory: "They taught me love in a world full of terror and hate." For the first time in many years, they saw stars in the night sky, signifying a considerable reduction in pollution on Earth. They decide to look for a better area to live because they have nothing left in the world. Their new journey starts when Thomas pulls the car in their direction. That's it for this recap. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss our upcoming movie recaps.